In our previous class, we studied about the atomic masses and nuclear electrons hypothesis. Today, we are going to discuss some of the nuclear properties. These properties include the size of nucleus. We are going to discuss them one by one. The size of nucleus. Number two is spin and magnetic moment. And number three is energy and Larmor frequency. So we are going to discuss them one by one. As from our previous knowledge, we know that nucleus is a positively charged dense core that lies in the center of an atom, where whole the mass of the atom, almost all the mass of the atom is concentrated. Okay, so starting with the size estimation, the very first size estimation of nucleus was provided by Rutherford, and we know that he performed an experiment via which he scattered alpha particles from the. Rutherford did the following experiment. He sent alpha particle towards a heavy nuclei, say gold, and alpha particles were scattered from the nuclei of gold. Okay, so this experiment provided us the first estimation of nuclear sizes, but later on new techniques have been developed, new further advanced techniques have been developed to estimate the size of the nucleus. But among all these techniques, the best way to calculate the size, the nucleus size still remains the particle scattering, not alpha particle but other particle. Two types of particle, that is, one is electrons and the other ones are neutrons. They provide us the best estimation of nuclear sizes of nuclear. Best estimation of nuclear sizes are provided by electron scattering and neutrons scattering. Electrons being charged particle whose charge is equal to that of that of proton is comparable to charge on nuclei. Okay, so charge on electron is nearly equal to is comparable to charge on the nucleus, but its mass is almost negligible. As compared to the mass of nucleus. Therefore, electron scattering from a nucleus provides us the distribution of charges inside the nucleus. Electron interact with nucleus via electric forces. So, interaction of electron with the nucleus is only via electric forces, and it provides us the best estimation of distribution of charges among the inside the nucleus. Similarly, neutron scattering, we know that charge on neutron is zero. Therefore, the neutron does not interact with the nuclei of different elements via electric forces. Mass of neutron, on other hand, is comparable to the mass of nucleus. Therefore, the interaction of neutron with nucleus provide us give the information about the distribution of nuclear matter. Therefore, it gives the estimation of distribution of nuclear matter So, mass of neutron on other hand is comparable to the mass of the nuclei. Therefore, it gives us the best estimation of the distribution of nuclear matter, that is nuclear matter for the time being. Let's say proton and neutron, that is nucleons, how they are distributed inside the nuclei. Neutron interact with nucleus via nuclear forces only. Okay. But one thing you must keep in mind that at this level, at quantum level, particles behave as a wave. So we must keep in mind the de Broglie wavelength lambda, which is equal to h divided by p, should be comparable to the size of nuclei. De Broglie wavelength of lambda that is associated with these particles with neutron and electron should be comparable to the size of electron. Let's say the wavelength associated with the particles is greater than the size of the nuclei, then let's say this is a nuclei. So the scattering would not be possible unless the wavelength associated with the particle should be is comparable to the size of the nuclei. Let's say we have the same nuclei here, but the wavelength associated with the particle is now much smaller. So the interaction would be possible, scattering would be possible in this case. We can fix the de Broglie wavelength by adjusting the speed of the particle, that is mv. So we can see wavelength is inversely proportional to speed, that is faster the particle is moving, slower will be its speed. Also you can see that the wavelength associated with the neutron is very small as compared to wavelength associated with electron moving with the same speed, because mass of neutron is 1836 times greater than the mass of the electron. So if an electron and neutron both are moving with the same speed, then the wavelength associated with the neutron will be 1836 times less than that of the electron. So it is easy to achieve a smaller wavelength for neutron. So it is easy to scatter a neutron from a nuclei than an electron. Okay. Other thing, in case of alpha scattering, you must keep in mind that the distance, the separation between alpha particle and the nucleus for this scattering should always exceed 10 raised to power minus 14 meter, because if you exceed, if the distance separation between these two particles is less than 10 raised to power minus 14 meter, then nuclei no longer behave as a point charge to the alpha particle and nuclear interactions will appear, for example strong force etc, and we won't get a scattering of alpha particle. So from electron scattering and the neutron scattering, we have found that the volume of the nuclei, let's say V, is directly proportional to its atomic mass number A. Okay, so volume of a nuclei is directly proportional to number of nucleons present inside the nucleus. We know, we can say that, let us say nuclei is a spherical object, then its volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube, where r is nuclear radius of the nuclei. So V is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. From this we can say r cube is directly proportional to A, or taking cube root, r is proportional to a power 1 by 3, and this could be reduced to r is equal to r naught a power 1 by 3, where r naught is nearly equal to 1.2 femtometer, and 1 femto is 10 raised to power minus 15, so we will get 1.2 into 10 raised to power minus 15 meter. R naught is indefinite because the nuclei don't have sharp boundaries. Okay, so we do not know that what exactly are the boundaries of the nuclei. You can see on your screen the number of nucleons per femtometer plotted against radial distance RE, and you can see that is the value of R for cobalt and gold. Despite that R naught is indefinite, this value, let us call this equation as our equation number 1. R give us the effective nuclear size, that is what is the effective size of a nuclei. So we can have if our effective nuclear size, for which we can find this wavelength, and we can obtain the scattering process. Okay, so this is R is equal to R naught 1 by 3. So our equation number 1 was R is equal to R naught a power 1 by 3. Another thing you must keep in mind, that the value of R naught that we found from electron scattering is slightly less than R naught is slightly less than R naught via electron to the neutron. This shows us that the distribution of nuclear matter and the distribution of nuclear charges is not same in the nuclei. We know that the nuclear charges, the charge only exists on the protons, but in case of nuclear matter, both the neutrons and the protons both have mass, so the distribution of charges is different than that of the distribution of nuclear matter. That is why R naught that we find from for electron is slightly less than that of the neutron. R naught is 1.2 femtometer, which means that the size of nuclei is so small that 1 femto is equal to 10 raised to power minus 15 meter, but femtometer is also called Fermi in the honor of a nuclear physicist Enrico Fermi, a pioneer nuclear physicist. Okay. That was all about the size of the nucleus or the nuclear sizes that we have studied. Let us solve a few examples associated with this nuclear size. Find the radius of C612. Find R for C612. Solution is R is equal to R naught a power 1 by 3. So R is equal to R naught is 1.2 into 10 raised to power minus 15, and A is number of nucleons is 12 and whole power 1 by 3. So this will give us, by simplifying this, it will give us 2.7 into 10 raised to power minus 15 meter, that is 2.7 Fermi or 2.7 femtometer. Okay. Similarly, question, find the density of C612. So we know density rho is equal to, from classical physics, mass per unit volume. Mass is mass of C612 is 12 U divided by volume must be 4 by 3 pi and R cube. So we have R 2.7 Fermi meter, mass is 12 unit, 12 multiplied by 1.66, 12 multiplied by 1.66 into 10 raised to power minus 27 divided by 4 by 3 pi into 2.7 into 10 raised to power minus 15 cube, and this will give us density of carbon nucleus is equal to 2.4 into 10 raised to power 17 kilogram per meter cube. If I convert it into tons per cubic inch, then this will give us 4 billion tons per cubic inch. So a box of this size, almost this size, will contain 4 billion tons of nuclear matter. 4 billion tons of nucleons of C612. Okay, we can compare this density that we have found from this equation to the density of a neutron star. On a neutron star, the electrons of the atoms are fused to the protons to form neutrons. So most of the matter there is in the form of neutrons, and it has very high density. The density range lies in 3.7 into 10 raised to power 17 kg per meter cube to 5.9 into 10 raised to power 17 kg per meter cube. That is the density of a neutron star range. So there 10 raised to power 17 and 10 raised to power 17. So the density of a nucleus of C612 is comparable to the size of to the density of a neutron star, which is a very high density. Another thing that you must keep in mind, if I have a free neutron here, it will undergo the radioactivity and give us the following reaction, that is proton plus beta negative particle plus electron neutrino and delta Q amount of energy. So a neutron undergoes this reaction when it is free in space. A free neutron undergoes this reaction, but on a neutron star, the neutrons are in bound state under the nuclear interaction and do not undergo this reaction. Another question. Find the coulombs repulsive force between two protons which are separated by 2.4 femtometer from their centers. So we know that the Coulomb repulsive force F is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 is E square divided by the separation between them is R, let's say R square. So the repulsive force will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 raised to power 9 and E square is 1.602 into 10 raised to power minus 19 Coulomb square per R square is 2.4 into 10 raised to power minus 15 squared. And this will give us, by simplifying this, it will give us 40 Newton force. A particle whose mass is just 6.67, this is 1.602, sorry, and a particle whose mass is just 6.67, mass of a proton is 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kilogram. So a particle whose mass is just 6.67 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kilogram is experiencing a 40 Newton repulsive force. So there must be a strong force, another force which is bounding the protons inside the nucleus together, and that force is the nuclear interaction, and nuclear interaction is greater than electrostatic interaction. Otherwise, the nuclear structure would not have been possible. The complex nucleuses, except for the hydrogen nuclei, no other nuclei would have been possible, because this is a very, very high amount of force. So, let us find a spin and magnetic moment. Both the protons and neutrons, nucleons, are fermions. The characteristic property of the fermions is their spin, that is, so their spin quantum number small s is always half. We know that the angular momentum of a particle and its spin quantum number are related by an equation. S is equal to under the root s into s plus 1. So this will give us 1 by 2 into 1 by 2 plus 1 whole square root is multiplied by h bar, that is unit angular momentum. So this will give us under the root 3 divided by 2 h bar. This is our equation number 2. So the angular momentum of the protons and neutrons, they have spin half and their angular momentum is under the root 3 by 2. The orientations of their spin, that is the magnetic spin quantum number when they are placed in magnetic field, is plus minus half. So ms is equal to plus minus half. You can see on your screen the orientation of the magnetic spin quantum number on your screen, that how when placed in magnetic field, how these particles are oriented in the magnetic field. In case of electron, we know that magnetic moments are associated with the spin of the particle. So in case of protons and neutrons also, magnetic moments of protons and neutrons are associated with their spin. Magnetic moments of protons and neutrons are associated with their spin. In nuclear physics, magnetic moments are expressed in nuclear magnetrons In nuclear physics, magnetic moment are expressed in nuclear magnetons represented by mu capital N, and mu n is E h bar divided by mass of proton divided by 2 times mass of proton. So this is our equation number 3 for the time being. Okay. Mu n is E h bar divided by 2 times mass of proton, and this is 5.05 into 10 raised to power minus 17 joule per Tesla. We can write it in the unit of electron volt per Tesla, which is 3 into 10 raised to power minus 27 joule per Tesla, and this will give us 3.152 into 10 raised to power minus 8 electron volt per Tesla. So this is nuclear magnetron. We know that Bohr magneton mu B is equal to E h bar divided by 2m. So 2m E, that is mass of electron. So from this and this equation we can see that Bohr magnetron is 1836 times greater than that of the nuclear magnetron. So Bohr magnetron mu B is greater than nuclear magnetron. MP here in this equation is the mass of proton. So the spin magnetic moments of the proton and neutron have the components in any direction. Let me write this. The spin magnetic moments of the electron, of the proton and the neutrons have components in any direction of of mu p is equal to plus minus 2.793 of nuclear magnetron. That is 2.793 times 3.152 into 10 raised to power minus 8 electron volt per Tesla. And that of the neutron is minus plus 1.913 nuclear magnetron. Okay, so the sign convention here, plus minus or minus plus, shows that the components the component of spin magnetic moment could either be along positive axis or negative axis. In case let's say along z axis we have nuclear magnetron. If we have a proton here whose spin is along z axis, then its magnetic moment, spin magnetic moment mu p z will be in the same direction as that of the spin. That is why we have written it as p plus minus. In case of neutron, let's say the spin is along z axis, then its nuclear its spin magnetic moment mu nz shall be along opposite to that of the spin. So therefore we have written it as minus plus. A better picture you can see, a better picture of it you can see on your screen. The proton has a spin magnetic moment mu n along z and along z, which is easy to understand because a proton has a net charge of plus 1 electron. But on the other hand, the neutron is a chargeless particle. The net charge on the neutron is 0. So it seems odd that it possesses a magnetic moment along any component. But if we assume that a neutron is a neutral particle which contains equal number of positive and negative charges, then even if the net charge is 0, a magnetic moment could arise. So we will discuss in further chapters that what is the composition of the neutrons, and we will see that it is a constituent particle of the other particles which possesses charge, and that's why there is a net magnetic moment. All right. So now let us consider we have a simple atom of simple nucleus of protium, that is 1 proton and 0 neutron. In this case, the net nuclear magnetic moment will be the net angular momentum of this nucleus will be under the root 3 by 2 h bar. We have a complex nucleus, say uranium 92-235, a nucleon in such a nucleus may also have orbital angular momentum. So in such a case, total angular momentum let us call it J, will be the sum of its vector sum of its orbital angular momentum plus spin angular momentum. So in such a case, the total angular momentum will be the sum of its orbital angular momentum and spin angular momentum. Again, we shall discuss this in further detail in upcoming lectures. So that was about spin and the magnetic moment of the nucleus. Next is energy and Larmor frequency. So when a nucleus whose magnetic moment has a component, say Z component, is placed in a magnetic field it possesses the potential energy. In a magnetic field B, then the magnetic potential energy of nucleus will be E is equal to magnetic potential energy, that is Um is equal to minus mu Z times B. This is our equation number 4. So suppose we have this nucleus here whose magnetic moment has a Z component, mu Z is placed in an external magnetic field B, then the potential energy it will have will be minus mu Z times the field strength, that is B. Okay. So when mu Z and B are in same direction, the energy is negative. While if we assume that if we place this in a magnetic field whose direction will be in this side, then in this case the energy will be minus time minus will be plus mu Z B. Okay. So when the direction of magnetic field is opposite to that of the magnetic moment, then the energy is positive. When they are in same direction, then the magnetic then the energy is positive. This energy is negative when the magnetic moment and magnetic flux density B are in same direction. While positive when in opposite directions. Okay. So this is important. In an external magnetic field, magnetic field, the angular momentum the angular momentum states of a nucleus state of a nucleus of a nucleus angular momentum state of a nucleus splits into its components. Just as in the main effect in atomic electron states. Just as in Zeeman's effect in atomic electrons. Let's say we have a nucleus which is in its ground state. There is let's say B is equal to 0 in this region, and here B is greater than 0. We have a nuclei, and this nucleus will have a ground state energy here. Let's say E naught is its ground state energy. When we bring this nucleus into the external magnetic field, the angular momentum state of this nucleus will split into two states. This is minus half, ms is minus half, and this is ms is equal to plus half, spin angular momentum state. Yes, magnetic spin quantum number is minus half and magnetic spin quantum number is plus half. It means that here it has spin down and here it has spin up. Okay. The energy in this state will be E naught plus mu naught z. In this state the energy will be E naught minus mu naught z, and times the magnetic field strength, that is B and B. Okay. So the total energy difference between these two states this is the energy difference between two states, that is delta E is equal to E naught plus mu naught times ZB, mu naught ZB minus E naught plus mu naught. So E naught will be cancelled, minus minus plus 2 mu naught 2 sorry is equal to E naught plus mu ZB and E naught minus mu ZB. So delta E is equal to 2 mu Z B. The energy difference between two states will be delta E is equal to 2 mu Z. Delta E is equal to 2 mu Z D. You can see the splitting of energy level of angular momentum states into its component on your screen for a time. Yes. So delta E is equal to 2 mu ZB is our equation number. So when a proton is in upper energy state, that is E naught plus mu ZB, when it flips and flips its spin, a photon of this energy will emit. Delta E is equal to 2 mu ZB. A photon of this possessing this amount of energy will emit if a proton in upper energy state flips its spin. Let us write it. A photon this energy when a proton proton in upper state, flips its spin to fall to the lower state. G emits. A photon with this energy emits when a proton in upper state flips its spin to fall to a lower state. Similarly, at lower state, a photon of this energy, when a proton absorbs this, a photon of this energy will flip its spin and jump to the upper energy level. So we can say a photon in lower state could be raised. A proton in lower state could be raised to upper energy level state by absorbing the photon of same energy. So we can absorb a proton, a nucleon, the same amount of energy, and it will flip back to upper energy state. Okay, so that was about energy of the nuclear and nucleons inside the nucleus. As from equation 5, we have equation number 5 was delta E is equal to 2 mu Z times B. We know that delta E is equal to H mu, and just let us write L. The frequency associated with this photon is called Larmor frequency, and which is H mu L. So we can write equation number 5, and we can compare these two equations, and we will get Larmor frequency mu L is 2 mu Z times B divided by H, that is Planck constant. So this is our equation number 6. So this is the frequency of photon. The photon's frequency corresponding, the photon frequency mu L that corresponds to delta E is called Larmor frequency. Larmor frequency. Okay. Now this Larmor frequency is actually equal to, this is a frequency of magnetic dipole with which it precesses the magnetic dipole in around a magnetic field. Magnetic field. This frequency was derived by Joseph Larmor in classical physics for an electron orbiting in a magnetic field. But this result, this Larmor frequency, which was calculated by Joseph Larmor in classical physics, could be generalized to any magnetic dipole. So we can see, if let's say we have a magnetic field B oriented in this direction, and we have a magnetic dipole whose magnetic moment will be mu z, and it will be precesses around in this direction. So you can find the frequency with which it precesses in this magnetic field is called Larmor frequency. Question: find the energy difference between spin up and spin down state of a proton spin down states of a proton with B is equal to 1.00 Tesla. So we can find delta E is equal to 2 mu z p B. So delta E is equal to 2 times mu z is, we just found that mu z is 2.793 times mu n of B. So delta E is equal to 2 into 2.793 times mu n, which is 3.152 into 10 raised to power minus 8 electron volt per Tesla multiplied by 1.00 Tesla. So delta E will become, by simplifying this result, we get 1.761 into 10 raised to power minus 7 electron volt. This energy would have been a large, very significant had there not been a proton. Instead, if we were calculating it for an electron, this would have been very high, because magnetic field is very large, that is 1.00 Tesla. Similarly, we can find the Larmor frequency for this Larmor frequency of this proton. Find mu L of this proton. Since mu L is equal to delta E divided by H, so it will give us 1.6761 electron volt per H. And by calculating, converting it into joule, and then using substituting Planck constant, we get mu L is equal to 4.258 into 10 raised to power 7 hertz. Yeah.